everyone to our committee person orientation. And we, go next slide, please. Just give you a quick overview of the agenda. So we're going to start with a welcome and introductions. We're going to have a little quiz. We're going to share the survey results. For those of you who filled out the survey, I think you might be interested to see what everybody else thought. We're not going to tell you what individuals thought, but kind of how it came out all together. We're going to talk about our mission and values. Going to review committee membership, what are the different roles on the committee. Could talk about precinct information and what it means to manage your precinct. We have a little Ridley 101 for you, and I'm sure some of you are like at the graduate level of Ridley, but I always think it's interesting to really understand where we are. We're going to talk a little bit about some proposed trainings that we would like to do in the future, some resources and tools, and then we'll have a little housekeeping at the end, and of course Q&A, or perhaps questions and opinions. And we really want everybody to jump in for that because we have so many great experienced people on this training. So let's go to our quiz. Oh, whoops. Let's do the introductions. Right. Sorry. So if you're here, I think everybody's kind of met each other, but if you're here, I'm just going to go down, and could you unmute yourself and just say hello to everyone? So, and we'll just do this by precinct. So Jim Donahue, James Michael Donahue, want to give us a shout out? Okay. Hello. So, hello. Hey, there he is. And Jim is in 4-1 in Holmes, not too far from me. Okay, and then if I go down here, let's see, we got Jen is our co-host for tonight, Jen Riga Murphy, and she's 6-1. Hi, Jen.
Yep. Hello.
And so she's on the other side of Chester Pike. And then let's see, continuing down here, Chris Goldsmith.
Hello, everybody. This is my first meeting as a committee member. Got my ears wide open, and I don't know how much is going to go above my head, but I'll try to be attentive and ask as many questions as I can get away with.
Super. And Chris is in Woodland. And then we've got Janet in 8-1.
Hello, everyone.
Janet is our treasurer. And Juliana.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Juliana. And she's in Folsom. Casey, did I skip you? I'm all the way back at 2-1.
Hello, everybody. It's so good to see you all here, and I'm very excited for the presentation.
Thanks, Casey. And Casey is a secretary, and I'm Bella Engelberg from 9-1. So co-hosting tonight with Jen Riga Murphy. So if anybody else comes in, we will get them to introduce themselves later on. So in the meantime, if we could again ask everyone, yes.
Have you forgotten me already? And Joan.
Oh, I can't see you, Ruth Ann.
I'm here, and Joan's here.
Okay, Ruth Ann, say hi.
Hi. Hi.
And Joan.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Joan. Yeah, so Joan is over in the Swarthmore Woods area, as is Casey, and Ruth Ann is in Melmont Park. But her mailing address is something different. That's something we're going to cover. All right. So if you are able to, if you have a phone in front of you, or you are able to open a new browser window on your phone, don't close the Zoom, but open a new browser window, go to menti.com, and enter code 8608-6174. So the first question that we have for you tonight, this is actually to test, can we use Mentimeter? So go to menti.com and enter 6174, and you see a question in there, and please go ahead and answer that question. All right, so we have Toledo's. We have Michael Steaks. We have no idea. Oh, wow. We have Roma Deli. Yeah, I like Roma Deli. Little Hut, Melmont Pizza. That must be Ruth Ann. And Trio Coca. So those are pretty awesome too. Those are really good hoagies. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, which is, let me see. How experienced are you as a committee member? So for this one, can I ask you to enter either I'm a newbie, I'm pretty experienced, or I should be giving this training, not you. And Chris, what do you want?
I'm a newbie.
Okay. Now, I was hoping we could find some volunteers for the training committee by doing this, but. Okay, so where we are, looks like we have a nice mix of newbies and people who are pretty experienced. So looking for the people who are experienced and you know who you are, and Jen and I know who you are to help out the newbies. Okay, well, stop sharing and you can leave Mentimeter for a few minutes and go on to the next slide. Thank you, everyone.
So now we're going to get into the results of the survey. So thank you to everyone that did the survey. We had 17 responders. And the way we approached this was we thought, you know, we kind of go into it assuming almost that we would think that with all of us being Democrats, that we all have the same set of beliefs and values and background, but you know that everybody is different in that regard. So we thought it would be good to do a survey of all of our committee people to get a better understanding of not only where they lean on different issues, what's really important to them, but also what kind of skill sets they bring to the committee and what activities are of most interest to them, because we realize that everyone might be a little bit different, and Bella and I want to support everyone in their growth on committee. So we'll take you through what we found with the survey results. So the first question was, what were your reasons and interest in joining the Ridley Committee? We always gave an option for others so people could add in, but we figured that people were likely joining for volunteer and service experience, potentially for a social aspect and networking. Others are interested in running for office. And then we had another category. So overall, the large majority of people picked volunteer and service. And I do want to apologize because as I was going through the survey with another member, I realized you could actually not select all that applied to you. I think it was somehow rigged so that you would just pick one. So the majority of people chose as their first response volunteer and service. Several of you expressed interest in running for office, so we will definitely be able to talk more about that to make sure we're supporting you in those interests. Other reasons people got involved with Ridley Dems was to get to know people and to elect Democrats and defend democracy. Not a small feat, but very, very important reason. The next question that we looked at was, looking at skill sets. So what kinds of things have people done and could potentially bring to committee? The first one was really interesting. It was hospitality and event planning. So that's really exciting because as we gear up for a very, very important election in November, we're going to be looking to have events that are not only for fundraising and bringing in more resources, but also community building so that we can keep everyone connected and potentially grow our committee even more. Communication was the second top result, which was also a really good thing to see. So we'll be interested to learn more about your background in communications if you've answered this survey with that result. Looking at, do you want to help us write content and messaging? Is it more the written word? Is it public speaking? Do you like to work with social media? So we'll be looking to get in touch with you to definitely use that skill set. We also had people that are good at organizing, photography, which is awesome because, we always love if people are taking pictures so that we can post them to Facebook. Certainly visual communication is very compelling with showing people really involved and engaged in the process. Fundraising, also very, very important as we want to reach as many Dems as possible in this Get Out the Vote cycle. Writing and content development, we have volunteer management and motivation. All of these things are just super, super important. So Bella and I look forward to finding ways that we can utilize your skill set. Other skills that people talked about were multicultural knowledge and understanding, experience with intersectionality and how that impacts us. Years of political experience was another response, and that's certainly very, very important. Training and video editing, again, visual messaging can be very compelling, so that's a really great skill set for our team to have. And also experience as an advisor. So all really great things that our committee is bringing to the table. The next question we asked people was about the types of activities they might want to do while they're on committee. Election day work was number one, super, super crucial day, all about get out the vote and actually getting those results that we're going to be working in the coming months to produce for Democrats up and down the ballot. And then the next top three were kind of a cumulative effect in terms of the things that we would do to get people out on election day. So people expressed interest in literature drafts, letter and postcard campaigns, and canvassing and door knocking. So all very, very good things to be doing to increase our communications with people, nurture those relationships, and get people excited about coming out on election day. We also have people interested in communications, so that will be very impactful going forward. Fundraising, volunteer coordination, and so on. Other activities people listed were experience in policy and talking about policy positions, which would be really, really great to have when we're having conversations with people at the door and even in our writing campaigns. And then someone had written designing anything for what you need. So that'll be really exciting too. The next question we had was the issues that I'm most interested in. So this was really a lot in one question, because how do you rank all the issues that are most important to you? And I think we gave you about 11 things to rank. But we did have some clear front runners in that regard. And I think you'll notice that there's probably a tie to the national trends that are going on in the conversation. Voting rights was number one. And that's probably maybe not a surprise to anyone, given the fact that we're, in the mix of the January 6th committee hearings and talking about voting rights and how crucial it is at the state levels to be making sure that people actually count the votes and the will of the people. Environment was a close second. And then we have gun safety, which again, is part of the national dialogue right now. Reproductive freedom with everything that's happening and expected to happen with the Supreme Court this summer, and what that means for women and access to reproductive rights. Racism was also one of the top themes, and we see that a lot in Ridley too. So it's not just a national issue. I think that's part of our local conversation in the last few years as well. And again, some of these ranked lower, it doesn't mean they're any less important. All of these issues are important, but it was just really an interesting exercise to see out of the 17 people that responded to the survey, what were the overarching themes for people. And it also doesn't mean that these are things we're going to necessarily focus on in our committee. We're going to kind of see how things develop with our canvassing and what's on people's minds. Some people might be focused more on the local issues, and that will get them out to vote. And others may be focused more on those national issues. So it's just interesting to see kind of where our own members lie in terms of their interest level and ranking in terms of importance for these issues. Other issues that people mentioned were poverty and homelessness, ending for-profit hospital systems, separation of church and state, issues of violence, and then criminal justice and police reform. Bella, did you want me to continue, or did you want to do this one?
Yeah, so I'll take over. And I just want to comment on the last slide, which was about the national issues that we're all interested in. To me, it was just so great to see. So the top 5 that there's a set of issues, I think, that no matter what are the differences we may have amongst ourselves, it seems like so many of us are here, you know, we think that voting rights are important. We think that that's something worth working on. And so when we get to those points, you know, where we're kind of having, you know, we're having our disagreements as we do, that's one of the things for us to come back to as a committee and really say, you know, this is something we all agree needs to be taken care of and that we need to help with. And the election day work that we do is so critical for voting rights. So I thought that was really fantastic. And the same for, you know, for the other issues that are right there at the top. So we also asked about the local government issues. And so what we heard back was that transparency in local government is just among the committee one of the biggest issues that we think is important. Again, something we can all really come together about, and taxes as well, and transparency and taxes, I guess, kind of go with each other, right? So a lot of transparency is how is our money being spent? The money that we're paying in, how is that being spent? And that goes right along with accountability, and then. The fourth one in that list that people said were important was police reform. So again, as Jen says, that may not be something that we work on as a committee, but that is something that you know, a number of us have an interest in and can come together about. And then just going on down that list, I think I can't read actually, Jen, what the school district something.
Some of them got cut off, like as I was taking pictures of them. So school district, it was with the health, and then school district, let me see, I wrote it down. School district health and safety, and then school district governance and financial issues.
Yeah, and I think the governance and financial issues is higher than the health and safety. That's the next one down. Okay. All right. So again, really interesting survey results and a lot of, I think, support for doing whatever we can do or to be advocates for transparency and financial accountability at the local level. So then the next one is also very interesting. That was about our political leanings in the Democratic Party. And so we had to figure out how do we define these terms, right? Because we all define terms differently. And we did find a website that defined sort of different groups of Democrats for us, and we used those definitions. So we said progressive or liberal, and to think of Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as being the example of that, centrist or moderate to be kind of the Joe Biden Democrat, and then we said conservative, Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema, and then of course people will give the option for other. So of the people who responded, which was not everybody, we have a little bit more of a leaning on the progressive liberal side, but in a good solid group of people on the centrist moderate I don't want to say side, but in that grouping. So I think that for us is important to recognize that there are going to be times when people who are more progressive are going to be kind of pulling on something, and we'll need to listen to the people who are more centrist, more moderate in their approach, and vice versa. And it's important for us to recognize as we're looking at this and what our own particular beliefs and persuasions are, that this is us, but we're representing constituents in our neighborhoods, right? So they may be somewhere else entirely. They may be aligned with us, or they may not be aligned with us. So it's important for us to be the kind of Democrats that really allow that big tent and are comfortable with various ways of being a Democrat. All right. So then we also asked about what kind of training would you like? And we came up with a list of, all these trainings would be cool. And the number one, by a long shot, that came out was how to talk to Republicans and undecided voters. And that is, I think, the training that I think almost everybody said, I would love to have that training. It was very interesting. Even people who are very experienced said, I would love to have that training. So that I think that's something we really need to look into. How do we get ourselves really better prepared to talk to the people who don't agree with us? And then more election day work. We already have a poll watcher training. We're going to continue to deliver that. Talking points on Democratic issues, Democratic Party issues. We are the platform. We definitely know what the platform is. We may not always feel confident talking about the details behind what's in the platform. So again, another thing of perhaps about how to talk to people, how to listen to people, and then understanding our local government is something else that people said they were asked for, and understanding the state government. And right now we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of the state government and trying to understand what's going on with the legislature and with the state senate and the governor and all of that stuff that impacts us in a way sometimes much more even than the federal government impacts us. So we're not promising all of these trainings, but this is given us a great direction for the training committee to go. And then we asked, what kind of social media do you use? A lot of people are on Facebook. That's great. And hopefully that also represents where our constituents are. Some people are on Twitter. That's also great. We don't have much of a presence on Twitter, but perhaps there may be, so that might be something we need to go for. And then some people using Instagram, and then a variety of other social media, including Discord, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And so Jen and I are definitely looking for the person who's going to stand up there and be our TikTok video creator. So I'm expecting text messages immediately. All right, Jen, take it away.
Thank you. So one thing that we'll always be coming back to is kind of our true north, as Bella has coined, is our Ridley Democratic Committee mission. So we'll be saying this a lot, and you'll probably have it memorized in your head. You'll be saying it in your sleep. But it's aligned with the Delaware County Democratic Committee and the Pennsylvania Democratic Party. We work to elect Democrats at every level of government in Pennsylvania, usually with a focus on Ridley Township and the Ridley School Board. This year, we are focused primarily on state and federal because we don't have offices running right now for the school board or the Board of Commissioners. So everything that we do, Bella had mentioned, we're going to come to this with different viewpoints, different leanings, but at the end of the day, our goal is to come together and make sure that we're always working to elect Democrats at every level. There's no time like the present that's so important to be doing this. So this is something that we're going to be continually stating and restating. In terms of our values, one thing that, we don't always think about is the fact, like Bella said, we actually represent people of our precinct. We have been elected and in some cases appointed to represent those precincts, which is the smallest political unit in the country. So as Bella mentioned, like when we come to meetings, we are bringing ourselves and our background, but we're also bringing really in truth, the people that we represent. So we're always going to be thinking about that. As I mentioned before, we're working to elect Democrats at every level. It is our true north, so we'll be using the compass symbol a lot just to always kind of be reminded of that and be moving forward. And then one thing that we've been talking about and plan to share with you and ask for your input and feedback is to come up with a code of conduct. It's something that we will get your feedback on, we will put together, we will obviously vote on it. So it's not something that the executive committee will create and ask you to apply, principle to, but it's something that we will come up together with as a group. But basically some guiding principles that we want to focus on are, always giving our members the benefit of the doubt, always assuming good intention. We believe, as Bella mentioned just recently, that, we're going to come to this with different viewpoints, but at the end of the day, we want to treat each other respectfully, that civil disagreements are healthy for democracy. So, expect those things to happen, but as long as we're all being respectful, we'll get through it. And we care for each other as people. So we're going to have a lot of opportunities to work together, whether it's knocking doors in groups or having events together. So we'll really get to know each other, and that's really the goal, because we believe we're all working towards the same purpose. And lastly, we're the face of the Ridley Democrats, and we're the face of the Democratic Party at large. So when we're out there on social media, when we're writing emails, when we're doing anything related to this work, you know, we are representing something larger than all of us. No pressure. Next, we'll talk about executive committee and the current subcommittees, so the current structure. Right now, everybody was at the meeting on Monday, so we have Bella was elected chair, I was elected vice chair, Casey Cole is going to serve as our secretary, and Janet is going to serve as our treasurer. We currently have several subcommittees, and I say that it's current because we may decide to add some or maybe change them a little bit. So we'll be having those discussions in our upcoming meetings as well. Currently, Michael Hayes is the chair of the canvassing committee. Bella and I are currently chairing the education and training committee. Casey Cole and Ruth Ann are chairing the fundraising committee, and Margaret Mansfield is currently chairing the volunteer committee. And so for all the people on this call and who will see this video later, just be thinking about your skill set, your interests in committee, and what kinds of subcommittees you might want to join. You can join one, you can join multiple, anywhere where you're going to have your interests and your skill sets utilized for good. We would definitely welcome you to think about that. And, you know, generally the subcommittee leads will meet with the executive leaders monthly for progress updates. And then we always report that out to our members in our larger monthly meeting. So next we'll talk about committee role and responsibilities. So we look at the what and the how of a committee member and their role. So really we're here to represent the Democratic Party and represent our precinct. We're looking to always be connecting and engaging with voters, primarily in our precinct, but you may be in an event and you meet someone that is in one of your fellow committee members' areas, and, you know, connecting them with the other committee person and just getting them involved in some way, shape, or form. And generally, we're here to support the work of all of our committee members and other Democrats. So we're all working towards that greater good. And how do we do that? So one, first and foremost, we be a visible Democrat. We don't have to go around saying that to everyone, but you know, when you're at events and, you know, you're able to network, that's always a good thing. And always be thinking about how you can bring more people into the fold. And also educating people, you know, about election day and you know, even what it's like to be a committee member, because I sent out a letter to my area and people responded, and now we have another committee person. So always just be thinking about ways that you can help grow the party. We're also doing this by engaging and connecting with voters at our party, and that could be at the local level in our precinct with our neighbors while we're canvassing or checking in with them. It could be at a higher level of the party when you're going to different events. We oftentimes are able to meet with people that represent our county, our state legislature, the federal government. So lots of opportunities to network and meet other people. And what does that look like? So most notably in your precinct, it'll look like voter registration and education, relationship building through the canvassing, the lit drops, making calls or maybe texting, whatever level that you're comfortable with. Maintaining lists and notes on voters in your ward and precinct, and we'll have a training about that in the near future. Taking note of things like house sales, outreach to new residents who looks like they might be of the age where they're getting ready to vote, and let's reach out to them. So those are a couple of examples of what it would look like to be relationship building in your precinct. And then overall, the committee member will attend as many meetings as they can. Those meetings happen once per month, usually in person, sometimes in Zoom, like we're doing now. If you're serving or plan to serve on a subcommittee, one or more, that's usually an additional meeting per month because you're meeting in a smaller breakout so that you can really get to the heart of the issue that you're looking to represent. And then we will have opportunities for you to review and make sure we're adhering to the bylaws of the Delaware County Democratic Committee. It's definitely one of the drier topics, but very, very important. So we will try to make that as interesting as possible, but we really want people to be in the know of the do's and don'ts within the party. So precinct management, I gave a little flavor to that when we were talking about canvassing and lit drops, things like that. But basically, overall, precinct management is about being the eyes and ears of your precinct. So noticing things that are going on in your neighborhood. Are there houses for sale right now? Who's moving out and who is moving in? Might we be able to register them in the Democratic Party when they move in? Who are the people that are Republicans in name only and independents who will likely vote for Democrats? I have people on my street that I talk to about this. They're registered Republicans and they're always going to vote Democrat in the general election. So these are things that are important to know, because when you get your lists of possible voters for get out the vote, you may not know those things by looking at their party registration. You might take note when you're walking in your neighborhood of lawn signs. Those could certainly be cues. I recently was able to make a connection with somebody that had a "Hate Has No Home Here" sign in their yard. Black Lives Matter, things like that. So there are clues if you're looking for them in your neighborhood as potential people that might, be involved at a higher level in the party. Looking at who isn't registered, which we've covered, and then who might want to volunteer with us or donate, or be a committee person by appointment. We all went through an election and there's 2 positions per precinct in that regard, but we also have 2 potential appointments that we can make. So if you're making a connection with someone in the neighborhood who you think would be really good at committee work, we can certainly talk to them about appointment and then just grow our party further. We, as precinct managers, we gather info and disseminate info. So like those lit drops, the door knocking, letters and mailings, calls and texts. And again, these are going to be things that you're comfortable doing. We're not expecting every single person to do every single thing at the same volume or the same time frame. So it's really about thinking about, as a committee person, what are you comfortable doing? What do you enjoy doing? And let's help you do that well. Ideas to share the work. You may be the only person representing your precinct. For a long time, for 4 years, I was the only person. So I was doing a lot of the work in my precinct, but we can get very creative with ways to help people in those types of situations. So we'll be talking about this in a training that's coming soon, because it's way too much information to delve into in this overview. But be on the lookout for that, because we will be bringing in people who have done this work for many, many years, and they'll all be providing different insights, and they all do everything a little bit differently. So it'll be really interesting discussion to kind of see how you might want to approach your work in precinct management. So just a little bit more detail on, as I mentioned, everybody might do this to different extents. Somebody might be really comfortable talking on the phone. Someone really might prefer that face-to-face interaction, and someone might prefer literature drops or a combination of all of the above. So if you can't go door to door, you might be able to call people or text them instead. If writing letters is not your forte, you might be able to partner with somebody who that's their jam and they can help you, or we might have a template letter on file. Many of our members have done some kind of letter campaigns on their own, and we would certainly share those resources with you. If you've written a great letter, like I mentioned, share it with the rest of us so that we can take some of those great ideas and put them to a larger use. If you can't print letters, we can help with that. If you're the only person in your precinct, like I mentioned, we will help either pair up with you to help share the work or identify people in your neighborhood that can help you. If lit drops are not allowed, for example, in apartment buildings, they're very hard to get into, we would probably send the literature by mail. So there's always different ways to work to get this information out to people and to reach people. So we look forward to learning more about your interests and how we can share those with committee and with the precincts. So I'm going to turn it over to Bella, and she is going to share a video.
Okay, here we go.
The Ridley Democratic Committee represents the Democrats of Ridley Township. Ridley Township is made up of 8 small towns: Crumlin, Folsom, Holmes, Leadham, Millmont Park, Seacane, Swarthmore Wood, and Woodland, that have come together into one municipality with one municipal taxing authority, which is one service provider for all of the towns. Because Ridley Township is made up of these 8 small towns, it has kind of a funny shape with 2 holes in it. One is Rutledge Borough, and the other is Ridley Park Borough. Ridley Township is served by 7 post offices, a couple of which are actually located outside of Ridley Township: Folsom, Holmes, Morton, Ridley Park, Sea Cane, Swarthmore, and Wood Lynn. Ridley Township is governed by a Board of Commissioners, and each commissioner represents one of our 9 wards, and they're elected by the voters in those wards. The 9 wards are further divided into 20 precincts. You can learn more at ridleytownship.org. So that's the township. Remember, Ridley Township is one municipality made up of 8 towns served by 7 post offices and divided into 9 wards, and you represent the Democrats in one of the 20 precincts of those 9 wards. So what about the school district? The school district is bigger than Ridley Township. It includes all of Ridley Township, and it includes Ridley Park Borough and Eddystone Borough. But it doesn't include Rutledge. That is in the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District. The school district is overseen by a board of 9 school directors, and they are elected at large by the voters of Ridley Township, Ridley Park Borough, and Eddystone Borough. You can learn more about the school district at ridleysd.org. It's important to remember that all 9 of the township commissioners and all 9 of the school board directors are Republicans, and so Democrats are not represented on either body. So why is that? It's not because there are no Democrats in Ridley Township. In fact, 35% of the registered voters in Ridley are Democrats, and another 10% are registered independent. But Republicans have a majority in almost all our precincts, and they usually have better turnout at the polls. We are served by 2 newly drawn state legislative districts, in which neither Republicans nor Democrats have a registration advantage. The 161st District is represented by Leanne Kruger, a Democrat, and the 162nd by Dave Deloso, also a Democrat, and we're part of one state senatorial district for which Tim Kearney, also a Democrat, is our senator. These legislative districts and the state senatorial district are all bigger than just Ridley Township. But every vote we get in Ridley Township is very important when it comes to re-electing our Democratic legislators. And it's going to be very important in electing our governor and senator. Because Ridley Township has been controlled by one party for decades, we see corruption, we know there is lack of budget and decision transparency, we know that there's tolerance of racism. And you hear things like you have to register Republican to get a job, or to get a zoning variance. Perhaps people feel they need to be a Republican to rent a property or to get a fair hearing in a local court. So not every registered Republican in Ridley Township really wants to be a Republican. They might just be afraid of the consequences of changing their registration. What are your neighbors concerned about? What can you do? Get to know your commissioner. Learn what happens at the commissioner and school board meetings. Ask your constituents, your neighbors, what their concerns are. Build confidence and optimism among the Democrats and potential Democratic voters in your precinct so that they will actually come to the polls and vote. Together, we can make an impact in Ridley, in Delco, in Pennsylvania, and in the United States.
So the next slide we'll talk, we just have a couple more slides to do. This will cover future trainings. So as I mentioned before, we'll be doing precinct and relationship management training so that we can kind of dive into all those topics we discussed in a little bit more detail. We'll talk about ways to pull canvassing lists. So we'll have orientations about Vote Builder and Voter Web so that you can get your lists. We'll definitely be focused on the training that was really the top vote getter in our survey, which was how to talk to Republicans and independent voters. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll also be talking about bylaws, rules and regulations, what we've dubbed the stay out of jail presentation. And like I mentioned, rules and regulations are a kind of a dry topic, super important, and Bella and I have some ideas to make it interesting. So stay tuned. And certainly if you have ideas for future trainings or you want to be involved in developing those trainings, please let us know. Turn this over to Bella.
Okay, so there's some additional resources that are available to you, and we'll make sure that people have access to the hyperlinks for these. So the Sunshine Law, so you know what what the rules really are around transparency. Robert's Rules of Order, which is important for how we run our meetings. You don't have to read the entire 200-page book. Our YouTube channel, so this training and other videos will be available on the YouTube channel. The videos are not going to be searchable on the YouTube channel, so you can't go and search for them. You'll have to go direct link, and the reason for that is because we don't want people searching for them and then maybe misconstruing what's in our videos, what's in our training. The county bylaws, if you don't have those already, we'll make sure you have those. And then there are virtual trainings that are available. TrainDemocrats.org has a lot of good virtual trainings that can be done either as Zoom meetings or they also have a YouTube channel with a lot of trainings. You do have to register for it. We would like you to give you the caveat that if you sign up at traindemocrats.org, you may get a lot of fundraising emails from them, but it's probably worth it in order to be able to get the training that they provide. And I guess what we're seeing there, Jen, is your progress as you're starting to take that training.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually have completed 1.5 courses, but it still shows 0%. So I did the one which was an introduction to the Democratic Party at all levels. So that was really interesting and it was very quick. And then I started doing the one on data management, was also interesting. So there's lots of different topics that you can be engaged in. And just a side note that, knock on wood, so far I haven't really gotten any emails asking for money. So so far it's been really really good training.
Yeah, and it's free, I think, because they do have all that fundraising going on.
Yeah. So we'll just go over a couple housekeeping items to think about as we're moving forward. We are working to get people access to VoterWeb and Vote Builder. These are the two databases that we use to pull our lists. They're different. They're run by different people and organizations. So we will do orientations so people can decide which one they prefer using, and then just to be acclimated because some campaigns will use one or the other. So we want our committee people to be familiar with both. We are in the process of updating our website to list all the new committee people with their preferred names. So if you go by a slightly different wording of your name, please let us know, but otherwise you will see it listed on our website shortly. We also will be reaching out to people to confirm their preferred method of contact. Phone, email, text, or carrier pigeon. Carrier pigeon is going by the wayside, but some people still use it. But we will be looking to see what's the best mode of communication for you. I will say that we do send not a lot of emails, but that is our main way of communicating different meetings. So we would ask that you check your email pretty regularly. But if you have a different preferred method of contact, we can also make note of that as well. We also would like you to reach out to us if there are certain accommodations that you need to participate in meetings, whether they be in person or on Zoom. There are several members that have requested certain accommodations, and we are in the process of setting that up for our in-person meeting in July. And lastly, we've tried to keep up by posting on Facebook. We had a really robust Facebook campaign leading up to the 6 weeks of election where we were posting regularly. We've continued to post on occasion, but would love to have you like the page, share the posts with people. If you're interested in photography and taking pictures at different events, please send photos to us. We would just ask that you try not to include photos of children, and anyone that might not otherwise want their picture to be on Facebook. So primarily if it's of you and some other Democrats in the party that say it's okay to share their information or photos with candidates, that would be excellent.
All right, so thanks, Jen. So we got, before we move on to questions, we want to ask you, how did we do? So if you go back to menti.com and enter code 8608-6074. And just enter a phrase, tell us, how was this training? Glamorous. It was glamorous? Jen, we're glamorous. This is
Yay.
great. Thank you so much, so much. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next question, which is the last question before we get to your questions. Your one takeaway, like, if you only remember one thing from this training, what is the one thing that you are going to take away from this? Your one new piece of information or whatever. Okay, so super, thank you. Right, so I am going to stop sharing this. And Jen, are we ready for some Q&A?
Yes. So we wanted to open it up to all of our participants tonight to kind of see what kinds of questions you had, any comments about the training, things you might have been expecting to see that we'll probably show you at a later date. We'd love to just get your feedback on what we've presented.
And feel free to unmute yourself.
So I have a question, well, comment question. I didn't know, and I don't know if I'm questioning this or just wondering about it, but you have to be a Republican. Is this like a view that people have, or is this true that you have to be a Republican to be hired by the township? Do they really not? I mean, I assume it's not a written thing, but do they really not hire Democrats in the school district or in the township?
I know someone who's a Democrat who was really recently hired for a substitute teacher role, and he's put in for a permanent teacher role. And so he's waiting to be a test case among my friends for the school district. The thing is, I don't know for sure, and I'd love for other people who've lived in Ridley for a while to dive in and say what you think about this. I don't know for sure, but I do know people who have changed their registration specifically to be hired by the township. Now, whether they had to or whether they just thought they had to, I don't know the answer to that question.
Ella,
Yeah.
I can comment on that. The school district does have some teachers that are Democrats, but for the most part, they don't talk about it. The township government has no Democrats. And as far as I know, there hasn't been a Democratic commissioner since the 1990s. And it's very intertwined with family. It's like the mafia. It's all family and friends. In-laws,
Good old boys.
What is it?
Good old
Good old
boys.
boys.
Yeah, exactly.
So to answer your question, probably not on the surface, but with a wink and a nod, yes.
Wow.
I also can attest to when I moved here, because I'm a transplant, and having to put an addition on my house and get permits. I had to hire a good old boy contractor to perform the work. And I'm sure there was some gouging involved. one of my best friends is from Ridley, and it's basically passed down from generation to generation. Her grandmother told her at a very young age that if you ever want to work in this township, you need to register as a Republican. So, and then I've also heard it from, many people in my neighborhood who I know are rhinos, which is, Republican in name only. And many people that I've called upon in my precinct will also say the same thing, that they, have had to change their registration or keep their registration Republican for reasons that have to do with, thinking that their trash won't get picked up or, things like that. Like, I don't think that's happening now, but I definitely think that back in the day, there were things like that happening. And so there's a certain amount of intimidation that takes place that has been carried through in generations in this township.
The story is as good as reality in some people's minds. So if somebody says fears that they won't get their trash picked up if they're registered Democrat in the Democratic Party, or if they put a Democratic candidate sign on their lawn, it's very hard to overcome that fear because they're going to have to do an experiment of, and see that it is or isn't true. And it may feel very unsafe for them to do that.
They're being very
So-
careful about that now. They're being very careful about that now because in the last 4 years, the spotlight has been turned on them. And if you'll notice, the commissioners now have their meetings online, recorded. I don't know if you can access them after the meetings. I think you can, the commissioners. The school
Yes,
board,
you can.
you can.
Mhm.
I don't believe the school board saves their meetings though. The commissioners have revamped their website. They have the agendas and the minutes up there. They're very careful because they know we're watching. And that's a good thing.
And
That's a very good thing.
because we've grown also, like I have no problem putting lawn signs on my lawn. I am waving my pride flag as we speak out front. And, I think because we're at about a 55% versus 45% registration, they know that we are growing and growing. And, I noticed them starting to play by the rules more and more each election. So I don't think the fear is as strong as it used to be. I think the playing field is becoming even, but we just have to get some people elected now.